This episode is brought to you by CarterComics.com. It is your one-stop shop for all comic needs, whether they be graded or raw. Carter Comics has got it all. All you gotta do is go to CarterComics.com, use the discount code FREAKNET, FREAKNET. You'll save 10% plus free shipping on your entire order. Again, CarterComics.com, one-stop shop for all comic needs. Listeners, we have arrived to the final 2025 episode of this freaky show. I'm your host, Travesty.
And I'm the Freak Joe.
I'm gonna turn this off. I don't need this. I want darkness. I need darkness. This is the last episode of the freaky story. This freaky show of 2025. I want complete darkness because this is probably going to be the darkest episode of this freaky show. We played a lot of games through the month of October. We were trying to fool Freak Joe on haunted places. We tried to fool him on serial killers. We got his opinion on some movies coming next year. But the one thing we didn't actually do yet this year is talk about Halloween itself. And since this episode is being released on Halloween, and I want to keep my promise, we're going to talk about the history of Halloween. We're going to talk a little bit about fun facts about Halloween, how different cultures celebrate Halloween. And before we dive into the final freaky tales, I'm going to talk about some murderers. They used to work at the Sears Logistics where I used to work. Yeah.
Somehow I keep forgetting in between episodes.
Yeah. Well, and it's valid because I promise a lot of things and never deliver on them. I will say to make a correction in case I misspoke before. One of these people, so there's two people. One committed the crime and was arrested before I even got there. The other one worked there as I did and was actually only arrested a few years ago for a crime that he committed in the 80s. So while I was working there, this crime existed. So, so I want to start out talking about the origins of Halloween. Halloween started more than 2,000 years ago with the Celtic festival of Samhain. It marked the end of the harvest and the start of winter, the dark half of the year. The Celts believed that on October 31st, the line between life and death blurred. They lit bones, wore disguises, and prayed the spirits would pass them by. The Romans later folded into their own festivals for the dead. The church renamed it All Hallow Eve, and centuries later, we call it Halloween. From fire to fear to candy to costumes, but the ghost never really left. I'm trying to script some things, so I hope it comes out cool.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds great.
Oh, let me think. Halloween around the world. Let's take a haunted trip around the world, Joe. Obviously, we'll start with U.S. and Canada. Haunted houses, trick-or-treaters, and roughly $10 billion spent each year on Halloween itself.
Wild.
In Ireland and Scotland, bonfires and snap-apple games, where it all began. Obviously, gotta talk a little bit about that area. Mexico, Dia de los Muertos, celebration of memory and color. Shibuya's in Japan, Shibuya's legendary Halloween street parade. In Germany, they have knives hidden so spirits can't hurt themselves. In the Philippines, they have the Pangang Alulua. Let me say that. Pangang Alulua, caroling for souls. Italy and France got candles by day, masquerades by night. China, they have the Hungry Ghost Festival. And Romania, Halloween inside Bran Castle, Dracula's domain. Different countries, same idea. A night to dance with the dark.
Nice.
So let me share some freaky Halloween facts here with you.
Please.
Jack-o'-lanterns were first carved from turnips. I think we talked about that before. Fun fact for those out there who don't know that. Witch means wise woman in Old English. I mentioned this earlier. Americans do drop
Turnip
10
nose or
billion.
jack-o'-lantern?
What's up?
Turnip means wise woman, and
Witch means wise woman in Old
oh, witch
English.
does.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Oh, you're good.
I heard
Uh,
WHICH, not WITCH.
ah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why English is crazy. Nutty. As I mentioned, Americans do drop $10 billion on Halloween every single year. Candy corn was once called chicken feed. The
That's
largest
great.
pumpkin ever grown, which for those who don't know, Illinois grows the most pumpkins in the
Damn
United
right.
States. Largest pumpkin ever grown was 2,700 pounds. Orange equals harvest, where black equals death. That's why Halloween has the orange and black color scheme.
Nice.
Last Halloween full moon, 2020. Michael Myers' mask was repainted Captain Kirk. I always told it was an inside out Captain
Mm,
Kirk mask, but I guess it was just painted.
yeah,
Um,
stretched out too. I think maybe run over by a truck.
and for those of you who have a fear of Halloween, your phobia is known as samhainophobia.
Hmm, weird.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and dive in here real quick. So those are all the facts and issue or information stuff about Halloween. I know I kind of ran through it pretty quickly. The thing is, though, over the course of this freaky show, we have talked about Halloween. We've talked about the history of it, and we kind of gone into depth in other episodes and stuff like that. Um, so you can always go back and check those out and everything. So the one thing I do want to talk about, obviously, as I mentioned, is the true horror, real crimes here in Illinois, not only in Illinois, but in a job I used to work at. And one of them was Thomas A. Small of Kankakee County, which is just south of me, was charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of concealing a homicide, a cold case dating back to 1980. Authorities allege he killed his wife, dismembered her body, and hid the remains for decades. He did plead not guilty, but he did ultimately get charged for it because there was enough evidence to prove that he did it. The people who found the body, who was investigating the case, determined that this was one of the most gruesome murders they have ever seen in their career. So,
Creepy.
yeah, yeah. The other guy, Daniel Kilbert, was married to a woman known as Deborah Lee Corbett, who lived in the Royal Estates trailer park down here in Kankakee. This was back in 2001.
Wait, so you worked with two separate murderers involved in
So
two separate murders?
I worked with one. The other one was arrested in 2001. I didn't get to
Oh,
Sears
gotcha.
until 2007.
Gotcha.
Now there is
Oh,
something
he worked at the
interesting.
same place, but at a different time.
Yes, yeah.
So there's something about that Sears that either attracts murderers or makes them.
There was a shooting outside that Sears a few years after I left there.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. But there is something like when I was kind of putting this together that made me kind of realize something. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second. But Deborah Lee Kilbert was 38 years old. Also, she was known as a missing person until her body was discovered. Lived in the Royal Estates trailer park. She endured months of domestic violence. On the night she died, neighbors heard her scream um, that she couldn't breathe. Her
Mhm.
husband, Daniel Kilbert, confessed, saying he killed her, wrapped her body in her sleeping bag, and sealed it inside a purple 32-gallon tub that he left in his trunk. Fun fact, not fun fact, but a fact, it was purple was her second favorite color. So
That is gruesome. Yeah, gruesome,
yeah.
ghoulish, macabre.
He did plead guilty, received 39 years, and remains in prison at Dixon Correctional Center until at least 2039. Currently, Deborah is buried at the Mount Calvary Cemetery in Kankakee. Now, the one thing that these articles didn't mention um, is where they found the body. Now, it was mentioned, obviously, she was in a tote inside the trunk of the car. That car he drove to work at the Sears warehouse parked it in the back parking lot. Now, if you can imagine in your mind, there's this big warehouse and this big parking lot right there in front of the warehouse, and right in front of that parking lot is a little retention pond. And that's where like semi trucks will park overnight, like that area. It's the farthest point away from this from the doorway. No one ever really parks out that way. I'm
Gotcha.
sure before I got there, when that cemetery was bustling, maybe the parking lot was filled a lot more. Not so much nowadays. Everyone kind of parked up front, but there was this retention pond, and he parked back down by that retention pond, and it was parked there for days in the summer. And the only reason she was found is because somebody noticed the smell.
Yep. I figured that's where we were headed.
So, uh, so Thomas A. Small and Daniel Kilgore both worked together. They knew each other, and when police arrived to arrest Kilgore, which they did at work, Thomas Small was already employed at the Sears warehouse. So that means Small was there. He witnessed the arrest, saw his coworker taken away in cuffs for a murder. All in the while, the same murder he committed nearly 20 years ago and was still getting away with it then.
Crazy.
For more than
Absolutely
20
crazy.
years. For more than 20 years, he carried the knowledge, watching somebody else pay for their crime while his own remained buried. And honestly, like for anything,
I mean, that's how you make it 20 years without getting caught, I guess.
right? Like I could imagine like his mind, like I'm sure while Kilbort was being walked out of the warehouse in handcuffs and people realizing what happened, I'm sure in his mind he's probably thinking, "You fool,"
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know. Exterior wise, he's probably like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that
What kind
happened
of
to me."
idiot brings the body to work where you
Right?
can smell it?
Right? Small from what I gathered was when he dismembered his wife, uh, he scattered her in I think there were bags in like the creek or stuff like out like towns over. Like he planned this all out. Obviously, Kabor was it looked like a crime of passion. But it was just like realized like when I was sitting there and I was talking to my former coworker about like because I told her like back in September I think or maybe even August I was like hey I think I want to talk about the Kabort guy that's or I want to talk about the guy who killed his wife from Sears. I just can't remember his name. And she's like, "Oh, you're talking about Thomas Smalls?" And then she sent me the article. I was like, "No, not this guy, but I remember this guy. No, I'm talking about the other guy who has his wife in the trunk." And so we started talking about both of them and everything. And it never dawned on me until I was putting this all together that these two people were working together
Crazy.
for 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 at least 3 to 4 days. There were two husbands who murdered their wives working in the same building at the same time.
Nuts. Nuts.
It's a it's a weird thing to think about.
It's a very weird thing to think about.
Um,
And that's just the guys who actively murdered their wives, not the ones who killed their spirits. Dark. Sorry.
no, I like it.
God, that was that's really dark, man. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's the thing too. Like when I kept thinking about it, like holy shit, like Kabor was arrested in 2001. Small started working there in the 90s. They didn't work in the same department, but I mean everyone knows each other there.
Sure.
But nobody knew about Small until a few years ago when he got arrested. Now obviously he's spending the rest of his life in jail, but
Yeah, he was an old man.
yeah. So Halloween has always been about two things: imagination and remembrance. It's a night we stare straight into fear and laugh, and it's a night we light candles for those we've lost. From ancient Celts keeping watch over their fires to families placing marigolds on graves, this night bridges worlds. So while you celebrate, take a moment for the real ones, the lives cut short, the stories that turn to whispers, that the real heart of Halloween.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought I'd say something sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, guys, Freak Joe asked me before we're recording which story we're going to read here at the end. I'm gonna give him a choice. I hope he chooses right for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Regardless of what he chooses, it's gonna be a great story. And I hope you're watching the video on Freakness Studios. You can admire Freak Joe's new spread that he has going on.
Thank you. Thank you for
Very
being. That's one of the things I'm freaking thinking about this week for sure.
very what's a good word, like alter like.
Ooh, I hadn't thought about it that way.
I 100% did, based on your profession. 100%. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say pew, but pew is where people sit, but you
Right.
stand at
That's
the
true.
altar. Very, very altar, right? Very uh
Pulpitess.
pulpit. Yeah, yeah. The thing that people stand at when they give speeches.
Yeah.
Yeah, very like that. I like it. There's chess. Guess there's some fancy form of chess, or just
Yep. So I bought it thinking it was the Wizard chess set because it's from the Wizard Chess Company.
ooh.
But it was cheaper to buy their new version, which swaps out for multiple games. And because it plays multiple games, it does not do the magic move the pieces on its own thing, which is really disappointing. But that's what happens when you buy something and then don't open it for 5 years. You forget. But it is pretty cool, and it's neat. And once I figure out what my username is and how to share it, if you guys want to play me in chess, I'm willing to make a Patreon level for that or something,
There you go.
or Discord chat. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I'll play some chess. I'll lose a lot.
I
Ruin
tell
your
you,
guys' image of me as being intelligent.
as long as you have fun doing it, right?
That's right.
So Joe is going to do the final Freaky Tales for October 2025. And again, regardless of the story he chooses, it's going to be great. So, Joe, I'm going to leave it to you.
I decided that because I've done the Telltale Heart, I think for the last 3 years, I decided not to do that one again this year. So we're gonna go to another classic American author, Washington Irving, and his short story, "The Adventure of the German Student." On a stormy night, in the tempestuous times of the French Revolution, a young German was returning to his lodgings at a late hour across the old part of Paris. The lightning gleamed and the loud claps of thunder rattled through the lofty, narrow streets. But I should first tell you something about this young German. Gottfried Wolfgang was a young man of good family. He had studied for some time at Göttingen, but being of a visionary and enthusiastic character, he had wandered into the wild and speculative doctrines which have so often bewildered German students. His secluded life, his intense application, and the singular nature of his studies had an effect on both mind and body. His health was impaired, his imagination diseased. He had been indulging in fanciful speculations on spiritual essences until, like Swedenborg, he had an ideal world of his own around him. He took up a notion, I do not know from what cause, that there was an evil influence hanging over him, an evil genius or spirit seeking to ensnare him and ensure his perdition. Such an idea, working on his melancholy temperament, produced the most gloomy effects. He became haggard and desponding. His friends discovered the mental malady preying upon him and determined that the best cure was a change of scene. He was sent, therefore, to finish his studies amidst the splendors and gaieties of Paris. Wolfgang arrived at Paris at the breaking out of the Revolution. The popular delirium at first caught his enthusiastic mind, and he was captivated by the political and philosophical theories of the day. But the scenes of blood which followed shocked his sensitive nature, disgusted him with society and the world, and made him more than ever a recluse. He shut himself up in a solitary apartment in the Pays Latin, the quarter of students. There, in a gloomy street not far from the monastic walls of the Sorbonne, he pursued his favorite speculations. Sometimes he spent hours together in the great libraries of Paris, those catacombs of departed authors, rummaging among their hoards of dusty and obsolete works in quest of food for his unhealthy appetite. He was, in a manner, a literary ghoul, feeding in the charnel house of decayed literature. Wolfgang, though solitary and recluse, was of an ardent temperament, but for a time it operated merely upon his imagination. He was too shy and ignorant of the world to make any advances to the fair, but he was a passionate admirer of female beauty, and in his lonely chamber would often lose himself in reveries on forms and faces which he had seen, and his fancy would deck out images of loveliness, far surpassing the reality. While his mind was in this excited and sublimated state, a dream produced an extraordinary effect upon him. It was of a female face of transcendent beauty. So strong was the impression made that he dreamt of it again and again. It haunted his thoughts by day, his slumbers by night. In fine, he became passionately enamored of this shadow of a dream. This lasted so long that it became one of those fixed ideas which haunt the minds of melancholy men and are at times mistaken for madness. Such was Gottfried Wolfgang when his situation at the time I mentioned. He was returning home late one stormy night through some of the old and gloomy streets of the Marais, the ancient parts of Paris. The loud claps of thunder rattled among the high houses of the narrow streets. He came to the Place de Grève, the square where public executions are performed. The lightning quivered about the pinnacles of the ancient Hôtel de Ville and shed flickering gleams over the open space in front. As Wolfgang was crossing the square, he shrank back with horror at finding himself close by the guillotine. It was the height of the Reign of Terror, when this dreadful instrument of death stood ever ready, and its scaffold was continually running with the blood of the virtuous and the brave. It had that very day been actively employed in the work of carnage, and there it stood, in grim array, amidst the silent and sleeping city, waiting for fresh victims. Wolfgang's heart sickened within him, and he was turning, shuddering from the horrible engine, when he beheld a shadowy form cowering, as if it were at the foot of the steps which led up to the scaffold. A succession of vivid flashes of lightning revealed it more distinctly. It was a female figure, dressed in black. She was seated on one of the lower steps of the scaffold, leaning forward, her face hid in her lap, and her long, disheveled tresses hanging to the ground, streaming with the rain which fell in torrents. Wolfgang paused. There was something awful in this solitary monument of woe. The female had the appearance of being above the common order. He knew the times to be full of vicissitude, and that many a fair head which had once been pillowed on down now wandered houseless. Perhaps this was some poor mourner whom the dreadful axe had rendered desolate, and who sat here heartbroken on the strand of existence from which all that was dear to her had been launched into eternity. He approached and addressed her in the accents of sympathy. She raised her head and gazed wildly at him. What was his astonishment at his beholding, by the bright glare of the lightning, the very face which had haunted him in his dreams. It was pale and disconsolate, but ravishingly beautiful. Trembling with violent and conflicting emotions, Wolfgang again accosted her. He spoke something of her being exposed at such an hour of the night and to the fury of such a storm, and offered to conduct her to her friends. She pointed to the guillotine with a gesture of dreadful signification. "I have no friend on earth," said she. "But you have a home," said Wolfgang. "Yes, in the grave." The heart of the student melted at the words. "If a stranger dare make an offer," said he, "without danger of being misunderstood, I would offer my humble dwelling as a shelter, myself as a devoted friend. I am friendless myself in Paris, and a stranger in the land. But if my life could be of service, it is at your disposal, and should be sacrificed before harm or indignity should come to you." There was an honest earnestness in the young man's manner that had its effect. His foreign accent, too, was in his favor. It showed him not to be a hackneyed inhabitant of Paris. Indeed, there was an eloquence in true enthusiasm that is not to be doubted. The homeless stranger confided herself implicitly to the protection of the student. He supported her faltering steps across the Pont Neuf, and by the place where the statue of Henry IV had been overthrown by the populace. The storm had abated, and the thunder rumbled at a distance. All Paris was quiet. That great volcano of human passion slumbered for a while, to gather fresh strength for the next day's eruption. The student conducted his charge through the ancient streets of the Pays Latin, and by the dusky walls of the Sorbonne to the great dingy hotel which he inhabited. The old portress, who admitted them, stared with surprise at the unusual sight of the melancholy Wolfgang with a female companion. On entering his apartment, the student, for the first time, blushed at the scantiness and indifference of his dwelling. He had but one chamber, an old-fashioned saloon, heavily carved and fantastically furnished with the remains of former magnificence. For it was one of those hotels in the quarter of the Luxembourg Palace, which had once belonged to the nobility. It was lumbered with books and papers and all the usual apparatus of a student, and his bed stood in a recess at one end. When lights were brought, and Wolfgang had a better opportunity for contemplating the stranger, he was more than ever intoxicated by her beauty. Her face was pale, but of a dazzling fairness, set off by a profusion of raven hair that hung clustering about it. Her eyes were large and brilliant, with a singular expression approaching almost to wildness. As far as her black dress permitted her shape to be seen, it was of perfect symmetry. Her whole appearance was highly striking, though she was dressed in the simplest style. The only thing approaching to an ornament which she wore was a broad black band round her neck, clasped by diamonds. The perplexity now commenced with the student how to dispose of the helpless being thus thrown upon his protection. He thought of abandoning his chamber to her, and seeking shelter for himself elsewhere. Still, he was so fascinated by her charms There seemed to be such a spell upon his thoughts and senses that he could not tear himself from her presence. Her manner, too, was singular and unaccountable. She spoke no more of the guillotine. Her grief had abated. The intentions of the student had first won her confidence, and then, apparently, her heart. She was evidently an enthusiast like himself, and enthusiasts soon understand each other. In the infatuation of the moment, Wolfgang avowed his passion for her. He told her the story of his mysterious dream, and how she had possessed his heart before he had even seen her. She was strangely affected by his recital, and acknowledged to have felt an impulse toward him equally unaccountable. It was the time for wild theory and wild actions. Old prejudices and superstitions were done away. Everything was rubbish under the sway of the goddess of reason. Among other rubbish of the old times, the forms and ceremonies of marriage began to be considered superfluous bonds for honorable minds. Social compacts were the vogue. Wolfgang was too much of a theorist not to be tainted by the liberal doctrines of the day. "Why should we separate?" said he. "Our hearts are united. In the eye of reason and honor, we are as one. What need is there of sordid forms to bind high souls together?" The stranger listened with emotion. She had evidently received illumination at the same school. "You have no home nor family," continued he. "Let me be everything to you, or rather let us be everything to one another. If form is necessary, form shall be observed. There is my hand. I pledge myself to you forever." "Forever?" said the stranger solemnly. "Forever," repeated Wolfgang. The stranger clasped the hand extended to her. "Then I am yours," murmured she, and sank upon his bosom. The next morning the student left his bride sleeping and sallied forth at an early hour to seek more spacious apartments suitable to the change in his situation. When he returned, he found the stranger lying with her head hanging over the bed and one arm thrown over it. He spoke to her, but received no reply. He advanced to awaken her from her uneasy posture. On taking her hand, it was cold. There was no pulsation. Her face was pallid and ghastly. In a word, she was a corpse. Horrified and frantic, he alarmed the house. A scene of confusion ensued. The police were summoned. As the officer of police entered the room, he started back on beholding the corpse. "Great heaven!" cried he. "How did this woman come here?" "Do you know anything about her?" said Wolfgang eagerly. "Do I?" exclaimed the police officer. "She was guillotined yesterday." He stepped forward, undid the black collar round the neck of the corpse, and the head rolled on the floor. The student burst into a frenzy. "The fiend! The fiend has gained possession of me!" he shrieked. "I am lost forever." They tried to soothe him, but in vain. He was possessed with the frightful belief that an evil spirit had reanimated the dead body to ensnare him. He went distracted and died in a madhouse. Here, the old gentleman with the haunted head finished his narrative. "And is this really a fact?" said the inquisitive gentleman. "A fact not to be doubted," replied the other. "I had it from the best authority. The student told it me himself. I saw him in a madhouse at Paris." The end.
Dark in here. Can't see it. Goosebumps, bro. Goosebumps. Good job.
There you go.
Joe, what you freaking thinking about?
I'm freaking thinking about my new setup. I've been wanting to do it since I moved in here, and it's not fully complete yet, but I'm pleased with the progress. I've got a nice a bar counter here where I could make drinks and things, and have nice space for my podcasting equipment and chessboard and things, and that's nice. Um, yeah, it feels good to be making some progress. This room has been just kind of a catch-all, bit of a
Yeah.
mess room since we moved here, and the goal is to make it kind of a game room, an entertainment space, and of course keep it a podcasting space as well. So, um, yeah,
Nice.
that's really what I'm thinking about tonight.
Nice.
Yeah, what about you?
I got several things. I'm gonna try to burn through them here. The first thing that's on my mind, the thing that I'm excited probably the most about, is over the course of the past month, I've been trying to get myself in good standings with the Freemasons. I'm finally doing that in a couple weeks here. I will be making myself right and whole, I guess, with the Freemasons, and I'll
Nice.
officially be back with them, and keep my promise to a buddy of mine to visit their lodge, and I look forward to be doing that here hopefully soon. The other thing for any of those who are following any Freaknet Studios social media, Facebooks or Instagrams for Freaknet Studios, this freaking show, Freaknet, Just Freaking Wrestling, whatever. You guys may have saw something go out that I put coming soon to Freaknet Studios. Belly Up with Travesty. It's uh it's a show idea I've had for quite some time. I really didn't know what I wanted it to be fully until I finally like kind of knuckled down and like talking with Joe, we're talking about 2026 being more content driven, more YouTube content for you guys, the growth of Freaknet Studios and all that stuff. And Belly Up was one of those things that I've been wanting to do for a couple years now. Again, I just like the name of it. I just didn't know what the concept was going to be. Well, now I decided that how it's going to work, at least for right now, is I'm going to visit back road taverns, dive bars, small town pubs, places like that. The things that don't give the acknowledgement that most like city party club life places get, the off the beaten path kind of places. I'm going to visit those with friends. It's not going to just be Cartoon Joe, which I hope some of those will be with Cartoon Joe, but um, some other friends that I've met along, my life, some from the Lovely Intoxicated Men podcast, a couple friends from my area that I don't get to see a lot. That I say, hey, listen, I want to go to this place. I want to go try it out. Film the content. Do you want to come with? Things like that. Give the history, try the stuff, just learn about these hidden gems out here in, the backfields of Illinois, and hopefully even expanding into the Midwest. I'm excited for that. I'm happy with the Iowa content that we developed, and as of today, all episodes are now released and available over on the Freaking Studios YouTube channel. The final episode released today, where Joe and I sit in the Devil's Chair. So make sure you check that out, as well as the other ones that we did. Um, in a couple weeks, I'm going to obviously me and Joe are going to continue our weekly podcast here at This Freaking Show. But there's going to be a bonus episode that I'm going to be doing in a couple weeks, along with my friends Justin and Will, who are part of the Low Intoxicated podcast. And Justin wanted to do a podcast with us three for quite some time because he feels that we have a connection and a camaraderie that would just be entertaining. I said, awesome, come on this freaking show. Justin has a project idea in his mind that he's going to pursue, and I'd love to bring him onto the show to talk about it. Will, who's part owner of Rocket Pro Wrestling, that we both, I mean, Justin and I, work for it. I want to talk to them because I want to get Will's side of the business and Justin's side of the fan side of the business, and just socialize with them and see how they are. they're just guests. They're not going to be part of this freaking show. So don't worry, Joe. I'm not replacing you.
I'm not worried.
You're mine till you're 90. Deadpool,
Mhm.
Wolverine, till you're 90. So I'm hopefully gonna have them on. I don't know if it's gonna be next week, but also at some point I'm gonna have my friend Nick and his wife on because his wife is interested in starting a podcast up. So a lot of interesting things happening over the next month or so with us, and I'm really happy about it. I'm really happy with the things that we did on this freaky show. I love the fact that we kept committing to it every single year during the month of Halloween. I'm excited for next year when we visit Ohio, amongst obviously the freaky shows that we do next year as well. And obviously, like I mentioned, 2026, huge growth. I like again. I have I have the perception that there's going to be more YouTube content available, and maybe a couple more podcasts as a couple podcasts are leaving Freakness Studios at the end of this year. Hopefully, we grow with new podcasts being created, and not only being created by other people joining Freaknet Studios, but being created by Freaknet Studios with hosts of their own. I'm really excited for stuff like that. So, a lot of ambition for 2026, and it all starts next week as we end this freaky show here and continue on this freaking show into November. Um, Next week is officially 10 years that we've been podcasting.
Wow.
And I still have no idea what we're gonna do. Yeah, because as far as I can tell, it's just gonna be another day. Um, Plus, next week we're gonna officially start. If you guys remember, in September we drafted some presidents. Starting next week, that bracket is going to be released. The voting is going to start, and we're going to determine once and for all who is the hottest president.
Nice.
Did Joe pick them? Did I pick them? We won't know until you guys vote and the brackets break down to one left. So, again, I'm excited for everything we're doing here. I'm excited for doing this. I'm excited because I'm going on this journey with my brother. That me and Joe have been doing
Mhm.
this for a decade, and no matter the life moments that occur that causes hiatuses or pauses, we always find a way to overcome those, get back together, not only survive but thrive. And I can honestly say that I don't think that I would want to do this with anyone else but you. So I thank you for that.
Amen.
And I know that come 2026, I feel that next year is going to be that year that gets us closest to what we anticipate ourselves to become. And I can just feel it. And nothing against JFW. I love you guys at JFW, but this is what started it all right here. Back in 2015, me, Joe, hell, maybe I'll get a hold of Colin. Maybe we'll get Awkward Colin back on the 10-year
Oh
show, 10-year
yeah.
anniversary show, you know? I'll shoot him a text, say, hey man, I know you don't like doing it anymore, but it's 10 years next year. It's 10 years next week. You gotta come on. You know, maybe I'd convince him to come on, and who knows, maybe we'll do something with that. I don't know, but it'd be cool if it could happen. But
Mhm,
anyways,
absolutely.
guys, uh, one final thing. I gotta do it. Joe,
Yes.
where can they go?
If you need more Cartoon Joe, you can find him over at the Geekcast Live podcast at violentpress.com. You can also find us on Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, and Blue Sky by searching Geekcast Live.
Excellent. Guys, continue to watch us on the Freaknet Studios YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe over there, hit the notification bell. Watch the podcast, watch all of our cemetery vlogs, and watch everything else we released. But if you choose to listen, continue to do so over on Apple or Spotify. Just make sure you rate and review while you're there. It helps us out. Follow us on social media. Go over to Discord. Make sure you follow our Freaknet Studios Discord over there. So, guys, as always, I am Travesty.
And I'm the Freak Joe.
And thank you for coming along on this journey of this freaky show. I'm out.